Yeah.
We can do a whole talk about chivalry at some point too. We do one of those.
I love chivalry. Yeah, that's a really good subject.
Okay, next
Not
week after.
today, but certainly a really good subject.
Right.
So, hi, it's Barry and Christine.
Hi.
Let's talk about dating. We always find so much to talk about, whether we're on camera or not, right?
Indeed, we do. Yes.
Yes, and wow, what an interesting subject, because you live too in Southern California, and it's generally kind of warm here. Today it's in the 80s. Shocking for those poor people that are in the snow.
Yeah, it's bizarre the weather this time of year, and it's funny because I get my, Facebook puts the memories up from years ago, and I've seen this sort of high temperature in early January show up more than once. And part of me goes, is this really global warming? Is this purely the fact LA's weird? Or California's weird. We see this weather. I know.
I think it's super weird. So that was wasn't that an interesting interview that I sent to you about what people do in the cold places? That was specifically in New York and
right.
the East Coast, but I imagine it happens in the Midwest, that people get in relationships just because it's cold and just because it's they can't really go anywhere even without COVID, because it certainly didn't sound like it was something that just started because of COVID. It's something that's been going on for a while.
Yeah, I think it's just basically, people want a warm body next to them in bed. And it's the title is about convenience and distraction. It is that thing about, can I get someone to be with me just so I can have somebody warm? Doesn't matter how good they are about cooking, business, other parts of relationship. It's just like, are they warm enough to be next to?
Yeah. And I didn't even see that it was a big deal that you have to really have a lot in common. I sort of got a sense that they kind of liked them, that they liked something about them.
Mm-hmm.
And it really made me start thinking about what are the criteria, and if in fact you just want somebody to date for distraction or for warmth, at least do it consciously. I mean, that's what you and I teach. Whatever you're going to do it with forethought, do it with purpose, do it with, there's a reason I'm doing this and it's okay enough right now. Because I think so often that's not how people date at all.
No, I think, I know we talked about clearing out the blocks, and we may go back to that again in this topic. But one thing a lot of people do, is my experience, is that it's almost like when people get out of a relationship, they leave this vacuum space there to hopefully suck somebody else into that space almost. It's like, okay, next.
Yeah.
So the criteria and the selection that we advise people to have doesn't even get on the table, because they're just looking as, okay, well, somebody fit in this box that I have.
Yes.
And that's all they need to worry about. And also the thing about the distraction piece is, a lot of people I know are serial daters. They don't really know what it's like to spend time on their own. Like, ever since they left high school, I know I've had clients who basically they got married right out of high school, like straight before they moved out of their parents. They were already engaged and married before they moved out, and then they said they get divorced, and they're like, I need to find somebody to fill in the gap because they don't have to be alone with themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, so that distraction criteria.
People that get in a relationship because they're feeling desperate and they think too much and it's too scary to be alone emotionally. And wow, there's so many other reasons to not do that, and to be thinking about how you could make yourself a more whole person rather than trying to have somebody fill in those holes.
Well, yeah, but the culture seems to encourage, as you say, a societal rule that, part of the American dream and have the vision of what you need to have is you need to be in a relationship to be valuable or something. There's something like, if you're alone, there's something wrong with you, which is really, frankly, I'm very clear, is not true.
No. One does not equate to the other at all.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I've seen so much lately on a lot of the threads of single people on Facebook is, well, I just want somebody that's going to come beat down my walls, climb over my walls. I have all these things, and they list all the things that are included in their walls. And they're just like, okay, come on, bring it on, knock it down, climb over it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I talk to really great guys in my coaching practice, and they're not going to go do that. They're not going to go do that. So if you are going to have up all these walls and you think you're going to be dating, it is going to be just convenience. Their convenience, your convenience. It's not,
Yeah.
it typically is not going to turn into a really wonderful, committed, future-oriented on both people's parts relationship.
Well, let's put something on that point, which is a lot of people don't have an idea they can even have something that good. So they are stuck in this sense of, I can only have this much. The term to meet someone and settle down is a very negative label anyway, because you want to settle down. No, you want to rise up. So the language is already putting your mind in the place. Well, I can't have better, so I'll go for what I can get.
Yeah.
And it's like you're going to sit at home, wait for the UPS driver to show up and marry them. It's like
I know. So this is when we'll go back to, well, what do you need and want? And do you think you can have that? That became a really important question for me when I was dating before I met my late husband. And I've certainly kept it on the front of my head as I've dated now after he died, because we can fill out that list of what we need and want sometimes pretty easily. Then do we really think we deserve it? Do we think we could have it? Do we think that kind of person will want us? I mean, that was a big stumbling block for me when I realized that many moons ago.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had a pretty not comprehensive, because that's the wrong word, because you want to have a list of criteria you want, but you want to make sure it's somewhat manageable. You don't want to have a list that's so long nobody could even fit the criteria. That's extreme. But also, don't make it so short that anybody could fit it and then you regret later on. I mean, I know that some of my lists got built by the mistakes I made. So, relationships, it's like, oh, I need to add that to my list for next time, so don't do that one again. That sort of thing. And many of us have that understanding. But the other part is, and I've said this earlier in the talk and also done many times, is sometimes you don't really know what you want till you're totally alone with yourself. Because when you're really with your own company, you're in your own space, you start realizing what you don't need, first of all. Like, you don't want somebody perhaps who is needy for you so much that you can't do anything of your own. You might decide, I enjoy my own company, so I want somebody who partners with that, lets me have my own time as well, and then it can be in the relationship. Because for some people, relationship, again, that distraction piece is where you want to be in a relationship to distract you from your own life. So when you start to discover who you are on your own, which is why I recommend having time between relationships, not just for the healing, but also to get back to center, so you really own your own centeredness and singleness. So when you choose a relationship, it becomes, what do I want to add to what I already have?
Yes.
Because that's the biggest thing, is that I'm really clear that where my life is now, what I'm doing, if I have a relationship, it's got to add to what I'm doing, not take anything away. Because some people have that, the practice of you have is I have to give up certain things to be in a relationship. Well, maybe not. Maybe you're going to give up some bad habits, but certainly you don't want to give up your things that fill up with joy. Like, I'm as you know from watching my pictures on Facebook, I'm having fun cooking and doing things in the kitchen. I'm clear that I want a partner who wants to do that with me. If you used to order out all the time, that's not going to work.
No, because that's not what's bringing you joy in your life.
Right.
And I think that part of what has driven both men and women, I just see women talk about it more, that they gave up so much of themselves in their past relationships that they're just convinced that's the only way to have a relationship. So why would they want to do that again? Which, who would? But how do you structure your picking, your value of yourself so that you get better at delegating and receiving and not taking everything on and it's all me? Because if in fact you allow the other person in your life to give to you and you allow to receive from them, what I found, especially in the male-female relationship, is you giving as a male builds you up, gives you more testosterone, gives you a sense of purpose. You get to win. You're chalking hash marks up on the whiteboard, the irreplaceable, no erasing whiteboard. Can't take those points away.
Permanent ink, yes.
Yes. And then on the female side, I'm getting to receive and be softer and more estrogen, which is good for our bodies, and gives me a chance to do some daydreaming and do some planning and do some, I have time for a bubble bath now.
Yeah.
And so I found that sometimes what people are, when they're dating in the distraction part, it's because they keep saying, oh, but if I get committed, then I'll have to do all the work. If I get committed, I have to give up myself. I hear giving up myself a lot. And what I find, at least from the men that I talk to, and I'd so love to get your point of view, Mr. Y chromosome, that I get to talk to every week, lucky me. Most men don't want women giving up themselves. They've liked who you were when you met us. And where does it leave you to do the providing and the protecting if we're all busy doing every single thing on the woman's side? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
So first of all, let me say for both partners, as I said earlier about it's like I want to be somebody who adds to my life. Well, there's certain things in my life that she wants to do for me. I have no problem with that. So it's not like to say you can't do anything in my life to make my life easier. That way too. One of the things I'm also aware of is that as much as I love giving and serving my partner or to women in general, I don't complain when they thank me for it. I do appreciate the praise and everything else too. So that's another quality women can bring to the partnership. But the thing for me is, it's like, well, let me sidebar slightly. I want to talk about this piece that's sitting in the back of my mind about the codependency versus interdependency piece, because sometimes we look at relationship as I won't be complete till this person shows up. The Jerry Maguire thing, you complete me, which is my favorite thing to use as a blunt reminder that it's not true and it's not romantic. It's not not fully fun.
Can I just add one other that I have to?
Please.
Love means you never having to say you're sorry.
Oh.
Just had to add that one.
No. Love means you need to remember to say you're sorry because you care enough. Right.
So thank you for letting me interrupt you. I just had
Absolutely,
to
no problem.
Interject that one.
So, and again, we've been raised in a society that teaches and preaches codependency as the way to do things. So again, settling down a relationship can't be complete to your other partner. I'm adamant, and know you are too, that you want to be in a relationship where you are respected as a whole being and allowed to be your fully self, and so the other person is too. And so when two people come together, there are certain things that one partner can do for the other person that's easier than they do it for themselves. That's the interdependent piece, because it's not independent, it's interdependent. Because there's three levels. Now, I went through this training years ago and I really understand it. Between codependency, which is you have to do things for me, otherwise I can't be happy, which means that the other person has control over your puppet strings and not fun at all, and your emotional well-being. Then there's the independence where I don't need anything from you. You just walk down your path, or my path will stand separately. And then the third piece is where we actually have things that overlap, but we still stand in our autonomy. That's the interdependence. And that piece on put that structure in place.
Yes.
So getting back to your question, which I now kind of blanked on, can you repeat exactly? I went into my track and I was like, oops. So please repeat your question again.
So women frequently say, I just have to do everything. I know I have to do everything, and I'm feeling overwhelmed and overloaded. And I was saying the benefits for a woman if we don't do everything. And so to speak to what the benefits are to men, if we are available, allow, are open.
Okay. Got it. So with that, I did was on the right track. I just lost track at the end.
I
So
understand.
In the interdependent piece, though, is the realization is the fact is that you don't need to do everything yourself. And frankly, as a man, when I'm in a relationship with a partner who lets me do things for her, so she can do it herself, but it's not like she can't do it without me. Although some things are even better when she can't, and I can do things for her because I feel very like I can do this. When it's something, even something as simple as like fixing her email on a computer or fixing something on the car, those sort of things, when I'm rewarded for them by my partner, and of course there's certain ways of being rewarded, which can be more fun than others, and I'll get down that path, that's very fun, is a wonderful benefit. So for women who have been thinking that they don't want to keep doing it for themselves, you don't have to. But also don't make yourself dependent upon a man to do it for you. Because a lot of times what it is that I'm doing things to make my partner's life more comfortable, more easy, more joyful, knowing she can do it herself. I'm not saying you can't do this. Like the whole thing we talked about before about being a gentleman and helping a woman by opening the door for a woman. It's the thing that women get upset about that I've dealt with in the past is they think that somehow I think they're helpless. I'm like, no. I know you can open the door yourself, but I'm doing it because I care enough and respect you to do it out of a sense of chivalry and gentlemanly conduct, to open the door for you so you can go through comfortably. It's a graceful and it's a respectful gesture. That's the energetic I'm speaking about, where a woman doesn't have to do everything herself, and nor does a man either. A woman can do it for a man too in certain areas. That's the synergy of the interdependent relationship.
Yes.
So does that answer your question the way you wanted to hear it?
Did. You gave me this lovely opening, because what I find for me personally as a woman, and I do find that my clients, when they start allowing the man to do things for them, and we start lowering the overwhelmed feeling that we're having, we are more apt to do that other kind of reward that you were winking at. It's the truth.
Me?
Yeah, all right.
Wasn't subtle,
Because
no.
we're not tired. We're not emotionally tired. We're not mentally tired. We're not physically too tired to want to be physical with you. Because I think that that's a lot of times what gets in the way, where you're like, yay, and we're like, oh, I'm too tired. I'm really too tired. And we are too tired. We're not saying we're not into this and we wouldn't think it was fun if we weren't too tired.
Right.
So that's one of the big, I think, a big benefit, not only one, but a really helpful incentive. And it's so funny because I'll get my couples to communicating better about, well, what could he do for you? And how could you ask him and allow him to do it? And then please say thank you. And then they'll come back and they go, oh, yes, we forgot about how fun that other kind of reward was because we had a
Right.
while.
And,
we think we can do that more again.
And on the other side of that is it's okay to ask for help too. Mm-hmm. Sorry, that was the thing you said. I'm flipping the way around. The other thing is also you can offer to help. The thing that you said about, it's like, asking him for help. Well, on our part, we can say, are you okay? Do you need support with anything? How can I assist you? Mm-hmm. Now, you may not need it, but at least the invitation is there. And that's another opening to safety, for comfort, for intimacy, for all those good stuff.
Well, and I'll tell you, from a woman's point of view, we like being asked, even if we say no.
Right.
We like being asked. It's kind of a challenge for women to ask. We really have a lot of big issues, I think, because we think we should have to do it ourselves, or it doesn't count if we have to ask. You should just be able to get it from screaming it in our heads.
Oh boy.
Superpowers of reading our mind. We're all convinced about that. I mean, we do laugh when we talk about it, and we do believe that, us ladies.
Well, that's the thing, is that this is, let's get back to John Gray and Mars and Venus. It's like understanding that we're very different beings. We're different species, men and women. So what you're thinking we should get is outside of our awareness. We're not even aware of that stuff. And also on our part, we're so good at doing things ourselves, we think you are too. So we don't even think to ask a lot of times, because we go, well, I can do it. She should be able to do it too. Mm-hmm. Because it's a missed opportunity.
And as a man, typically, you're better, I think, at asking. If you can't do something, you'll find a trusted expert and you'll ask them.
I would disagree with that.
Really?
I really believe that GPS was invented by a woman, because we would never ask for directions.
No, not directions. No, not directions necessarily. That's true. I'll make a caveat for that. But like
the thing is, for most men, just to be honest, I mean, most men, especially those of us who think we're smart, never look at the instructions.
No.
We'll just take everything else and put it together. I do myself, and I know I've made mistakes in the past, but I still do it anyway. So us being willing to be asking for help is not something that men generally, I think, are naturally tending to do. We think we can do it ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like let me say this way, and I'll say, if we're evolved or awakened men, we might ask for help. And I'm like, I think I'm that too, and I still don't ask for help. So it's a mix and match.
Yeah.
And so it is different, but also there's certain things physically, of course, because men, generally speaking, are stronger. So a woman can't open a bottle; she'll ask a man to do that. That makes total sense. But it's other things that I think women don't think they should ask men for. Like they should be able to do it themselves, which is also bad programming and training. Yes. And us thinking that women should be able to do it for themselves because we can do it for ourselves is that missed opportunity, realizing that men and women are not the same.
Nope, not the same.
Right.
So I'll clarify my point of and I still am happy to say no, Christine, you really are still going down the wrong road. I want to check yourself on this.
Please, that's what we're here for, to help each other out. Yes.
I know, I love that. So if it's something that you want to know how to do or learn how to do, or you're stumbling around doing it and you really do your best to figure it out on your own and you just can't, then would you ask, or no, still not? I'm really curious about that.
When we are in a place where we're learning to master a skill, we will tend to seek out a teacher or a master type. Think that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's certain things in my life that I knew these how to do, so I'd seek out somebody who's already doing it better than I was. That's fundamental of business as well, by the way. Is finding someone who's done it better than you are, so you can learn from them. However, I am aware that for most men, we would rather learn from another man than from a woman, because somehow we're learning from a woman. There's some built-in programming about shame that a woman can do better than we can. So we don't want to go down that path. So we'd rather go talk to a man who's usually probably older than us, who's been through more life experience than we have, who's proven themselves in the world by having certain status stuff that we don't have. We can then say, okay, well, it proves that they're better than me, so I can learn from them. That's okay. It doesn't destroy my ego.
Yeah.
There's some of that's in there as well. It's not the only piece, but that's a big piece of it too.
Really good points. So I feel even more honored that men talk to me about their relationships. I guess because I tell them that not only am I a coach, but I'm a woman, because I can tell them what's going on the other side, right?
Exactly. In that context, exactly the right reason.
Yes. So then I am a trusted expert because I am one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, because it's so nice to get more clarification from the people I'm talking about.
Right. And just to toot my own horn, on the flip side,
yes,
that's why women come seek my help, because they know that I'm a man and can speak from a masculine place. So we both offer that service.
And that we're here for the best for them, which I think people really get. I think I'm getting a sense that they even get this from our podcast. They certainly get it when they talk to us individually. Yeah, I like that we get to talk about how we coach. I love that.
It's a nice piece.
It is, because it's one of the joys that get us up every day is, oh my gosh, who are we going to be able to talk to and help with their relationship challenges so that they'll be in a happier, healthier, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual place with themselves and their potential or current partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Cece says it's time for a break, and we're going to watch all those beautiful commercials.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
See you soon.
Okay. We're back.
Indeed we are.
So today we're talking about if you're using relationships as a distraction, or are you using it to not make a commitment, to not to just be convenient, that you're not going to, that it's for the purpose of not something future, something permanent, that, or do you think you can't have something permanent or something for the future? Why, if you are doing something, first, are you aware that you're having a relationship that's just a distraction or a convenience?
Right.
And if so, What's the good reason? I mean, that's the thing that it always gets down to the bottom line, I think, for us human beings. I'll say, well, what's the benefit? And most people, because they've called to change whatever their behavior, there's no benefit. Okay, let's just pretend. Let's pretend there's a benefit.
Right.
So some of the benefits for a relationship that's just a distraction and just a convenience, you've mentioned earlier about you don't have to look at your own stuff. You don't have to be alone with your stuff.
Right.
You have somebody to help distract you. And often what I hear is the distraction is all the things that are wrong with the other person.
Unfortunately, it's true. I'm
Yes.
laughing, but it's like I've heard it so many times. It's just, yeah.
Yes. And that you're going to try to fix them, or why don't they try to fix themselves? And what I believe in pretty close to 100% is we attract people into our lives to show us our stuff, whether we want to look or not, and give us a chance to maybe look at it, maybe work on it, maybe change it so that our life feels better. So I always look for it as an opportunity and go, well, why did that person come into my life? What can I learn from them? What's the benefit of having them here? Why am I attracted to this? And it could be just, I want to be distracted from what else is going on in my life right now. Okay, at least be honest about it.
Yeah.
Or they're just convenient because I'd rather not be alone. Or I need a +1 to go to a bunch of things, which not so much right now, but it certainly has been in the past.
Right.
And I don't think people have gotten over that feeling. They're just not able to do that right now. So I think it's important to still address that, having convenience of just a +1 that isn't really somebody that's making your life better.
Well, that's the thing. Is a relationship something that's going to be additive to your life? As I mentioned earlier about, so if I'm, in my case, being single, as there's a meme I put out a while ago, which a lot of people laugh about. It's like, you got to pretty amazing and special to show up in my life to my life better than it already is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, is most people don't think that way. And one of the things about convenience I want to speak to as well is just like detour, is a lot of people have never changed their dating criteria or their dating profiles in 20 years or 10 years, where they don't change what they write on their dating profile because they think that's enough. And the thing is like, if you're getting the same sort of partners all the time, or courters, someone comes to court you, some prospects who's showing up in your life, and it's the same type of person every time, it might be your dating profile you want to change.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, that requires a bit of inconvenience because you've got to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on the deeper level, and we have talked about this before, I know, is that we are also in a place where we tend to attract the same sort of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the profile, just the way we attract into our life. So part of that convenience is that we don't think to change ourselves to change what we attract.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is that one of the quotes from my master program, it talks about how basically, and I'll say this once and then explain it, is that outer experience is a reflection of inner reality. That was the way I was going to say it.
Yes.
What it literally means is basically what we experience out in the world is a reflection back to us of who we are inside. So you said about having partners show up in life to show us our stuff. That's part of that. If we are not believing we're worthy of an amazing relationship, we tend not to get an amazing relationship because we don't think we're worthy of it. That's the reflection. So the convenience piece is, are we willing to be inconvenienced enough to look inside and go, what am I need to change in here first? So I can then raise the quality or raise the criteria that I choose for a relationship out there.
Mm-hmm. And you can also do that if you're not dating. Look at your friends, look at your colleagues, because you'll often find a thread of, they're all argumentative, or they're all so needy, or they never want to have lunch with me, or whatever it is. You'll often find a very common thread in your romantic pursuits as well as your friendships. At least I've certainly found that. And so if you say, oh, in a non-judgmental way, which is difficult.
With some practice, though.
Absolutely. And it's so helpful, because the best news, if you go, oh, I see a thread, I see a trend, you can do something about it. As simple as making changes to your profile. That certainly has worked for me. When I don't like the types, the types aren't working for me, they aren't a match for me. It's amazing the difference that happens when I change my profile. Just the wording. I think I had mentioned quite a while back that there's a woman that she took up glass blowing after her husband died because she thought it would be a nice social thing to do. But we couldn't put glass blower in her profile because people were making kind of crass remarks.
Oh, yeah.
That would think that way. So when she said she was a glass artist, those all went away. And so it wasn't her attitude. It was just the words that made total sense to us when we put it in there. I didn't think of it either until we saw that. I'm like, oh, yes, we're not going to give that kind of an opening to people that would take it. And that maybe people that were thinking on a more chivalrous manner would go, what does that really mean? So now a glass artist is getting her much better responses.
There's no innuendo there, which is good.
None, not even implied.
Right. Which is the thing is that is a simple thing. It's like, it's sometimes good to have either have a clean look at your own or a detached look at your own profile when you write it, look at what you've written, or get someone else to look at who you trust on the opposite sex. Who can look at it for you, say like, does this land for you? Does this make sense? Or is there anything I'm missing?
Yeah.
It's okay to get help that way. If you want to get professional help, you can ask us, but even a friend who's of the opposite gender can help you with that too.
Because sometimes we forget to even put in some of the fun qualities about us or something that we're really passionate about because it's just normal, natural in our life. We don't think to write it down. And they'll say, but you're missing this part, that everybody thinks you're really funny or you're so dependable or you have glass blowing, in your life, and show a picture of you with some of your art because she hadn't done that either. So you could really see what this glass artist meant,
Exactly.
Not with a pipe, but with a piece that she had designed.
Yes, having results of your craft shown is like, see what I've done?
So I have pictures with me with my horses, the horses that I ride with my friend, the horses that I spend time with at the equine therapy, so that you really see me doing my passionate things.
Right. And let's sidebar a bit into dating profile for a moment to the pictures, because that's one of my pet peeves on the dating apps, is that it's great for some to show pictures of what you do, your passions in your pictures if you don't write about it in your description. But the other thing is, please, and it's emphatic for ladies watching this and for men watching this too, in your dating profile, it's nice to have a headshot that shows your face without sunglasses.
Yeah.
Looking at the camera.
No hat, no sunglasses.
Right. Oh, by the way, one other thing. A lot of people, excuse me, a lot of people put pictures on social media as well as on the dating profiles when they're taking a shot in the mirror with their phone, because you see the phone in the picture. There's one big problem with that. Well, two actually. The big problem is that when you're showing the picture on your profile, it's reversed. Mm-hmm. If you ever looked at your picture of yourself face on and then in the mirror, you look totally different. And that's because none of us have, I don't think almost anybody has a symmetrical face, or our faces are asymmetrical. So when you're taking pictures to put on your profile, make sure you're taking a picture of yourself directly, or if you're doing it in a mirror, flip it before you put it up on the profile. Yeah. That's one thing. The second thing is, this is one of my personal things, maybe I'm attached to this one, is I really want to be with somebody who has an iPhone, because I have an iPhone too. So taking that picture in the mirror, I see what sort of phone you have, which may work against you or for you.
I've never heard that before. Wow.
That's a personal preference. Well, the thing is, because for me, and I think it's people with Androids and other phones, but with an iPhone, there's the communication between iPhone and iPhone is much easier. Yeah. And feature sets and everything else. So that's just a preference, not a requirement, just a preference.
So it's probably not listed in your profile that you have to have an Apple phone. So
no, because things I'm willing to go further before I find that out.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. I hear that.
Right. It's a deal bender.
Yeah. You can bend around that one. So
yes,
there's another piece that I see when people date for convenience and distraction, because they have these you talked about a little bit before about how big your lists are, unbelievable, unattainable goals.
Yeah. Pages and pages.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So who do you really want to date, and how are you going to meet them, and who are they? I mean, I don't even know who they could be, that they are all this. And who are you compared to that? And I never mean that as a put down, but if you want somebody that's even some of those things, are you some of those things? So I think that if you're dating for convenience or distraction, you need to be really honest about, well, maybe you don't want a serious relationship right now, which is perfectly fine. And I think people should date for a little while to get some dating under their belt, get some experience talking to people of the opposite sex, having a chance for them to ask you out and for you to suggest a date, asking for what you'd want and need. Because what happens a lot when we really like somebody, we're not very good about being our authentic selves and asking for what we want and talking about what we need because we don't want them to go away because we really like them.
Right.
And so it's better to practice with people that you aren't feeling so much chemistry and connection with, but don't do it to not concentrate on yourself. My job always has been when I job, I do think of it that way though, it's a nice job, is to keep looking at how can I get better at this? How can I get better at figuring out what I want and need and finding out if they're that.
Right.
And learning about them. I mean, some people who just we weren't a match, we were really far apart on some of the things that were really important to us. We had the most fascinating conversations about, I had one guy that I went out with that his ex-wife, who he had a very good relationship with, was a professional shopper and packer for uber wealthy people that traveled a lot. Is that a
Wow.
fascinating job?
That's a trip.
I thought so too. I just hung on every word. I thought, wow, what, kind of qualifications do you have for that kind of job? And also to just hear what a nice conversation they'd have and how well they did with the handing off of their children. And so it made me go back and add on my list, I want to make sure somebody has a really good relationship with their ex people if they're going to be a divorced person. And so when I met and married my late husband, he'd been married twice before, and we had Thanksgiving and Christmas and birthdays for the kids with both ex-wives, a lot. So putting that on my list, I got that. And
Yeah.
who would have thought to put that on your list?
It is. That's the thing, is that your list should, first, one, your list should always be fluid and up to date, because that's, as you said, it's like, that's one of the things, is we do tend to realize there's a lot of things by when we experience them, like, oh, I didn't have that on my list, or I didn't have this on my list. So one of the things on your list is you want to make your criteria list, what we'll call that, a minimums level.
Mm-hmm.
More than that, so it can be more greater than that. The thing, because you got to be careful also not to make your list based on negatives. In fact, in my online course, the first step I have people do is write down everything that doesn't work for them, all the negatives, the red flags, so to speak, things you don't want to have from past relationships, or you don't want to have period because you experienced with your parents, whatever it was. And then as soon as you finish making that list, or as long as you've got a fairly complete list, is then you flip this list and start making a list of all the positives that are the inverse of that. So that if you've got something about someone that, but someone's never around for you, someone's always there for you. That sort of thing. So you flip them around, so that way you start your list. Because a lot of people don't have a clear understanding of what they really want in their life. So if you start with what you don't want, that's much easier to find. Most people, because you tend to be in a negative environment in the world, the way the world is wired, it's easy to go into the list of things you don't want and things you do want. So start with what you don't want first, and then build from there what you do want, and then destroy the list of things you don't want, because you don't want to keep the energy around.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We coach it the same way. I start with
Yeah.
the what you don't want list too, because it's easier. People really are very clear about what they don't want. That's what I did after my divorce. I knew all the things I didn't want from that marriage. And then I figured out some of the things I did want. And then the more I dated, the more I was able to add to both of those lists, so that I would say, oh, well, what did I not like about that person? And what would I want instead?
Exactly.
What didn't work out well with that dating experience? And what would I like instead? And so that's what I did when I was sitting with that man whose wife did that very interesting job. Went, oh yeah, I need to remember, I like this. I like how he talks about her. I like how they relate to each other. I like that there isn't any rancor. Because I always would ask people, so what do you think caused the divorce from her point of view? So they blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he was gracious about it. And then what do you think caused the divorce from your point of view, from your responsibility? And he was very forthcoming about how he was going to be different this time. It was too bad because there were a couple of things that were just, we wouldn't have been able to overcome. But I was able to add so many of those things to my list of, oh yeah, those are really important to me. And I wasn't aware that they were important to me. The things you don't want as well as the things you do want. So that's why that list, as you said, needs to remain really fluid.
Yeah, for me, just to reflect on my own history, there definitely were things in my last relationship, the last big one I had, that set me on the course I'm on now, which is why I'm so grateful for it, even though it was messed up as well. But it also was not the first time I experienced that one. It was kind of like after having the same experience in 2 other previous relationships, at least 2 other, that this one was the place where I said, okay, enough. I get it now. I now know what's not working for me because of what I'm doing in this relationship.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
yes, I did have issues with the way she was, but a lot of that was because of the way I chose to be in that relationship with her.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've done a lot of forgiveness work and everything since. I mean, I definitely done the inner work since that relationship ended. But also, she brought so many gifts to me because of things that didn't work. I could use as my springboard to what I do want.
Yes.
So everything is an opportunity for learning, for uplifting and transformation. But
Yes.
it's not distracting and it's not convenient.
No. No. It's actually pretty inconvenient to keep looking at yourself. Actually, it's very brave.
Until you find the joy in it, then it becomes a lot easier. Not convenient, but easier.
No, much easier, way less hard.
Yeah.
I know it's fascinating, the people that will say, well, I've been out on 200 dates and none of them worked out. Why? Why? I mean, do you ever ask yourself why?
Right.
Why is there something that you did or didn't do or didn't say or did say? Or I think introspection is so important.
Absolutely.
The just acknowledging 200. I mean, I've seen that number more than once. 200 dates that didn't work out over and over and over and over. One-time dates.
Yeah.
Maybe a second date.
See,
Why?
that to me is very inconvenient. I'd rather not do that.
That's a lot of money.
But and also the time commitment and all the people guys you keep track of and things you've got I'd much rather like course correct. And that's the thing we talked about this a long time ago about the thing about feedback, about course correction. Mm-hmm. And recognition is that if you go on like 3 or 4 dates that are all the same, that's feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So can you learn from that and choose your criteria so it shifts it this way or shifted that way so you can get some different experiences?
Yes.
If you got 200 dates, that's a lot of wasted experiences you have there.
Yes. Yes.
So,
yes. It's I think it's exhausting.
Agreed.
And discouraging.
It's going to definitely toughen you up and make you harder to be coming close to because you've been through so many dates. It's like, can you keep opening heart every single time? Mm-hmm. It's hard work.
And it's definitely going to continue to send you down that, well, I'm just going to date for distraction or convenience because who wants to keep getting their heart broken? Or right. Stop at all. Don't do it at all, which is also bad.
That's a juicy thing right there about avoiding heartbreak because you want to be distracted or convenient because you'd rather not face the heartbreak. That may not fit in this talk, though. I think we're running out of time.
But I think that's really a nugget for what happens, what the big real downfalls of that, the emotional cost.
Right. So the question to leave the viewer with is, if you're dating for distraction and convenience, what is it you're avoiding facing in yourself? Mm-hmm. What is your heart not willing to face? What are you not willing to face with your heart? That's keeping you in a place of safety and distraction.
Mm-hmm. It's a really good question, Barry.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell people how they could talk to you if they wanted to ask that question?
Certainly.
Help them get to the answer of that question.
I would love to. So my name, as you may have heard already in this talk, is Barry Selby, which is how you can find me online. My website is barryselby.com, and you can definitely drop an email to me at barryselby.com. I would recommend, if you've been triggered by our conversation, inspired by our conversation, or at least provoked by our conversation, to reach out for a chat. And on my website, on the navigation at the top, there's a little link that says Let's Chat, where we can set up a schedule on my calendar, and you can drop in for a quick conversation with me, and we can see if I can help you and give you some clues on what you want to do next. Social media, my name is Barry Selby. YouTube especially, I've got a lot of videos on YouTube, over 1,000, that can help you with your understanding and question about relationship. Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn is all Barry Selby. I'm the real Barry Selby on Instagram because my name got tweaked there, and also on YouTube. On Facebook, you can find me at at barryselby.author is my business page on Facebook. I think that's it. And you, Christine.
Thank you, Barry. Yes, I would love to help you soothe some of those sad, hard, challenging feelings about, could I ever have love? I can't have love. It all keeps happening hard. It's It's just discouraging. It's just frustrating. And I don't know what to do next. Okay, I can help you figure out what to do next. You don't have to figure out what to do next. Just come and say, I'm frustrated. I want to know what to do next. And the way to reach me is my website is www.theperfectcatch.com. And at the top, there's a link that says what's holding you back from love. Let's get to the bottom of that, and we can have a complimentary chat about that. I tell people it's kind of like a first date to see if we hit it off and we want to continue seeing each other.
Perfect.
You can also send me an email, Christine@theperfectcatch.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Did I forget one of them?
YouTube, Twitter.
Yes, YouTube, Twitter, all the social medias. I'm out there. The Perfect Catches and the Christine Baumgartner is sort of on all of those. And you can find it on either one. I've discovered you can do my company name or my personal name.
Nice.
Yeah. And I'm not married to Kevin Costner because that is his current wife's name. And I do get asked that now and then.
I didn't know that.
Yes, she was
I didn't know you're not married to him, but I didn't know the name was the same.
Oh yeah, good clarification. Yeah, was a very famous German model, and now she designs handbags. And we don't look anything alike, and we're a very different decade and age.
I imagine,
but it's funny, every once in a while it comes up. People go, "Is that you?" No. I need to go to high school with my sister.
There you go.
So thank you for listening. I imagine this triggered a number of people.
I think so.
I think things have gotten even harder and worse, especially if you were dating for convenience or distraction, because you can't now. It might be bringing it up even more. Right? How to get yourself settled and ready for when we can start meeting each other again, because we're sure hoping that's going to happen sometime later this year.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. So let's get you ready.
Yes.
Okay.
So next week, same time?
same time, same bad channel.
See you next week at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time, right here on the same channel.
Yes. On goingsolomedia.com. Let's talk about dating.
Bye.